video tutorial, we're going to teach you everything you need to know to thread the Bernina L890 serger correctly. I'm going to be giving you lots of tips along the way and give you a small brief overview of what to choose and what you're looking for on screen. I will tell you that every time that you might change stitches, everything is going to be right here. So the more you do it, the easier it gets. First, we're going to actually do the 4-thread overlock. That's kind of my go-to stitch for most of my construction seams. If the screen is at a different stitch than what you want to start with, touch the home button. That's a great way to kind of get all the way back to the beginning and start. Now we will go over this a little bit more. You have a guided mode and an expert mode. So guided mode is going to take you step by step for each of the items you need to thread or do or make sure are correctly attached, like do you have your needles in the right position? Do you need them changed? So let's just actually work through the guided mode. We will also need to pick the right stitch. So start by going up here where the icon for the stitches are. And we're just going to go ahead and X out of this. When you find the 3 yellow folders, the first one says overlock, second one says cover, and then combo. So we are working first in the overlock stitches, and then we'll get into the videos that cover the cover stitch. The first one that is listed here, and they're all listed and defined by their information. The first one is the 4-thread overlock with integrated safety seam. So that is a simple way of saying that's the first one I want to do. On our screen, we have everything that we need to do. First one, and I can see I need to do this, is, and I'm so glad these are here, is to make sure that the presser foot is up. We always want to thread the serger with the foot in the up position. As we go through each of the steps, you can arrow to the next one as you are seeing what you need to do. Touch as you go. It will tell you which foot you need. There's even a picture of a little video. Adjust the pressure of the foot. So that's actually right up here. I know it feels like, are we not there yet? I just want to thread the machine. But this is double checking that everything is in the right place. Now I know I'm not explaining every step of the way, but as we go in, we're going to come back and show you specifically screen by screen. But I do see that I have already placed the needles as directed in the location it wants them to be in. So we do have 2 needles. I know my knife is active and the cutting width, which is actually way down here, has already been set to what I need it to be. Here is where I see which colors I'm going to use. So let's come up here where I really wanted to kind of start off with looking at. We have attached the thread stand. Now I'm going to go ahead and pull this all the way up and all the way up and all the way up again. But before I do that, can you see that each one of these has a color code? And today I am using color-coded thread that will match so you can see exactly what I'm doing. And I recommend this when you start out because it's a great way to kind of see, does your picture on screen match your fabric that you are stitching? So if it doesn't look identical, then something's not right. We need to kind of revisit it. So I am needing the yellow. The green one goes in the back, the blue one goes in the front, the red one, I'm using pink, and there is not a purple one on my screen. And that's because anytime we're using purple, that is designated for cover stitch. So I'm going to start by actually removing the spool I don't need, because if we leave it on there, sometimes thread will hook up with its friends, and now we have other issues because it wants to play too. So I always take off the spool of thread that I'm not using. And so if I'm only doing a 3-thread, you'll only see me with 3 spools of thread on the machine at any given time. Trust me, ask me how I know this. So now that we're all set, I'm going to go ahead and bring this all the way up. And then when I come to thread each of these, I'm going to be coming over the top and laying it from back to front in each of the guides as we go. Now, as you're going to see, it's going to kind of go up and out of our way. Now, back in the day, I do have to say, we were always told, and on some sergers, you still need to do this, you needed to thread in a certain order. I have found on this serger, yay, that it really doesn't matter which order you thread it in. They all end up in the same place. So that has now been kind of rectified, and now we don't have to worry about it so much. So I'm going to touch the green check mark, and now I'm going to show you where each of the paths are. And let's go ahead and start with the loopers first. Those are the ones that are going to be air jet threaded. So that's going to be my blue one and my red one. Now, over all the years, Bernina has kept these colors the same. And a quick way of knowing which one is your upper thread and which one is your lower thread. Blue has always been upper. Think of sky and heaven. And the red one has always been a little trickier to thread back in the day. And that one was always kind of hell or not so good, kind of center of the earth, not fun part. So if that helps you remember which one is your upper looper, which one's your lower looper, that is one way we've done it. So remember we lifted the presser foot up. That means these tension discs are open. You need to do that on your sewing machine as well, but on a serger, same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and start. There is a little loop right back here. So stand up and look how you're going to kind of lay the thread down and kind of hook it. So you can kind of see my threads hooked on that. And while I'm over here, I'm going to do the same thing for my other thread, my red one or the lower looper. Next, I'm going to open up the door to the side to expose the areas where I'm going to be threading. So one is blue, one is red, so you can see what is going on there. I am going to have you open up this area next, so slide it to the right and pull straight down. To engage the air tubes, so you can't just thread this without engaging all the parts to connect. Otherwise, the air is going to blow through and not push the thread all the way the complete distance. So to do that, you're going to start by taking this knob and turning it to the side. You're going to see at this time, the tubes are going to close right down here, and that is your indication that you can now take the threads. Now, here's something nice. When we put the threads down through here, you will be able to do them at the same time. Now, you don't have to, but what you're going to do, by the way, don't lick this and try to get it to help it. That moisture is not going to be also your friend. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to just push it down and then take my finger and help it just a little bit further. Now, do you see that there's not a lot of thread hanging here? You will want to pull extra thread so that when you step on the foot control, that's what sends it through. You can hear it. There you go. See the blue thread? Now, it barely came out because it actually got caught on a little bit of the little front corner here. But all in all, there it goes. It comes out. Ooh, I feel we're a little staticky today, so that'll be even more fun. If your environment is a little staticky, you will probably just need to assist it a little bit more than normal. So if it doesn't go through all the way the first time, just go ahead and give it a little bit of extra push. Give yourself lots of extra thread puddled there, and then just step on the foot control, and then that activates. But if I had done them both at the same time, then stepped on the foot control, boom. We are actually all the way threaded down through the loopers. Done and done. That's how fast it is. Now, just so I can show you now, when I close this and this will not close up until you switch the dial and open up those air tubes for actual use. So if those stay closed, this doesn't close, and then the machine won't run. That's a nice little like, hey, by the way. So I've often just been so excited to stitch, I forget to do it. So it's very common, but I do love the machine will tell me. So your last thing to do is to twist this back to the 0 side or to the right, close up both of these little guys, and then you are ready to thread the needles. Now, before I go that much further, there is a needle threader here that I will be using. It's a handheld needle threader, which I love. And so I'm going to go ahead and bring the green thread over the green guide at the top, catch it on the back, so just make sure it gets clicked in there. And then we're following the guides all the way across. You're going to see green little locations. So if you see a green one, that's what we're going to do. Now, right here you see 3 different choices. The top one is for when you're doing cover stitch or chain stitch. The bottom 2, which are separate, yellow and green, that's for regular serger stitches, overlock stitches. So I'm going to put the first one down here at the green and then just follow. You can almost pick just about any one of these guides at the top of the needle, but you are going to want to catch the ones that are fairly above the needle you're going to. So while I'm up here, I'm going to go ahead and get the other one. So the green and yellow are your right needle and your left needle. The yellow one is the left one. And again, it doesn't matter which order you thread these in, just make sure your presser foot is up. And we're going to go ahead and let you see how this needle threader works. At this point, if you want a little bit more clearance, go ahead and lower the presser foot. Once the threads are in those top tensions, we are set. It also puts a little pressure on the threads as you're finishing up the last couple guides, so it's a little easier to kind of hook them in between. Your tweezers are your friends. Sometimes it's just a matter of ease for me to keep my hands out of the way so you can see it. So again, just lay it in the guides at the top of the needles, and I'm going to kind of do both needles at the same time, and then just kind of click it in at the top. So this needle threader is ideal. So first off, there is a place on one end for kind of changing out your needles, so it can easily hold it up while you're loosening or tightening the screw, or catching it when you're taking it out. But on the other end, there is kind of a place, it kind of looks like a little bit of a plunger, and as I'm kind of pushing it in, you can see a little tiny metal tongue. So once you master this, this is going to be your go-to needle threader, and I'm glad it's separate because it's a lot easier, like just in case it gets bent, you can like rebend it yourself or even replace it if you totally need a new one. So here's what you need to look for. Number one, there is an arrow on the top. Now, if you flip it 180 degrees, you'll get an arrow on the top. So either one of those arrows is fair game, as long as you can see it on the top. Next, your thread is going to lay side to side. I always think of it as in his mouth. So if you think of like a horse's mouth and you put a bridle in his mouth, that's what I always tell my students, is you're putting it sideways. So as you come to the needle, so this is my green thread, I can gently push the needle threader onto the needle from the front, arrows on the top, and as I push, it's going to kind of stop. You can kind of see that it wants to sit in the groove that runs down the front of the needles. You can slide it all the way down. When it gets to the eye of the needle, push it all the way in. That plunges a little loop of thread to the back, and you have a little hook right here, so you can actually use the hook to reach behind the needle and pull the thread out. So let's go ahead and do that one more time. I'm looking for the arrow. The arrow is on top. Place the thread side to side in the mouth. Bring the needle threader and the thread. I always start about halfway up the needle, and as I feel it reached into the groove, slide down, plunge it in, and then bring the loop of thread right on through. Now, a lot of people ask, like, what am I supposed to do with all these threads? So it really doesn't matter. I usually will just find like my needle threads, I'll just bring off to the side. I see my upper looper is here. My lower looper is kind of still dangling out of the lower looper down inside here, but that's okay. When you take your fabric for testing and you take a few stitches, everything's going to come together, which is just amazing these days. Okay, so first off, you're going to see me also take every piece of fabric that I'm going to stitch that's going to be 2 layers. I'm going to fold it in half. But instead of stitching on the raw edge side and then trying to open it to show you, if you stitch on the folded side, I'm going to cut a little bit of this off, then you can open it and check your seam. So to do this, now a serger has feed dogs that are so far up in front of the foot that I can just slide this right up to the front edge, step on the foot control, and as it starts to stitch, first stitch of the day, we'll do the little recalibration, and then it'll go ahead and take it in. Now, yes, there's probably going to be some threads all kind of going in different directions. I see this one's on top. You could take some scissors and cut it short, or if you're like me, I'm probably just going to let it go and then kind of swoop it all to the back, or it's going to get there on its own. Once we have this chain that is continuous, we won't have those individual threads. That's why it's always nice just to do a little test sample at the beginning. Now, watch what you can do. One of my ways I do like to do is to gently pull while it is serging. Have yourself a nice distance of the thread chain, and then as I'm serging, bring it underneath the presser foot, and the knife will cut off this edge. So here's what we're seeing. We are seeing, Yes, and I always look on the back because really the back is what shows you whether you are correctly threaded or not. So we are seeing kind of 2 rows of stitching. I know because it's yellow in the lime green, you don't see it so much, but they are creating 2 rows of stitches in the overlock stitch. The blue upper looper is laying across the top of the fabric we've stitched, and the red, or in this case the pink, lower looper goes back and forth underneath. Now when we open this up, whichever color is in your left needle is the color you're going to see when you give this a tug. So right now I am actually seeing yellow thread in here. Now we're going to do a video that will talk about, like, do you really need 4 spools of hot pink and 4 spools of yellow if you're sewing on items? I'm going to give you a way to really pare down how much serger thread you really need to own to master stitching on all different colors of fabric. But all in all, I will tell you, even if you are stitching some, let's say, pillowcases with 4 different spools of thread like you have threaded up now, nobody's going to care what those colors are, because the only thing that matters is if you were to kind of press that open or see that seam, that you're going to see whatever color is in that left needle. So start there for understanding what is going to be seen and what is not going to be seen. But you will also see that this matches the picture that is showing on the serger screen now. As you become more familiar with looking at stitches, looking at their title, and then doing the stitches yourself, you are going to find how easy it is to quickly identify if you have threaded the serger correctly for the stitch that you're looking for. And I'm going to walk you through over and over how this is going to be your go-to everything for mastering this machine. Now we have additional video tutorials on this machine, so if you're looking for the rest of them, you can click in the description below and find where it shows the Bernina 890 playlist, and you can start watching these videos for free from the beginning. We also have links below to talk about some of our other serger online courses we recommend, and some of our sewing machine and embroidery courses for you to check out. And in each of those courses, there are videos that you can watch for free to see if that would be a course for you. So if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us and let us know how much you love your new serger. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can make sure to get all the updates as we continue to film additional Bernina machines.